Welcome to Our Montana. I'm Mike Penfold. I tell you, you might be interested in the program today. If you're a fisherman, or you like to float in rivers, or you're kind of interested in history, or you like the scenery along the Yellowstone River, stay tuned. We've got something special which we're going to give you today. You know, the Yellowstone is almost 700 miles long. It's got so much history about it. The first people who came into the United States came along the Yellowstone River, close to it. And then we had the trappers who were up and down the river, and Lewis and Clark, and all the Indian people who found their homes along the Yellowstone River. And now it is so critical to who we are here in Montana, particularly here in the Yellowstone River Valley. For those of us here in Billings, we get our water out of the Yellowstone River. The Yellowstone River waters our crops of sugar beets and other crops that comes out of the fields. Even our oil refineries depend on water from the Yellowstone River. For over 2 decades, our Montana has been concerned about sustaining these important uses that come out of the Yellowstone River. And outdoor recreation is one of them. I have with me today Dale Anderson, one of my colleagues. Dale, I'm so glad to have you.
Glad to be here, Mike.
And Dale's been working yeoman hours putting together a app that will go on your telephone. And we're going to tell you about that. And this app is free. Dale Anderson, I want to know how many hours you put in building this app.
This week?
No.
No, I put in a lot of time on this thing. It's become a real passion. I've learned so much about the Yellowstone. I thought I knew something about it to begin with. But after doing what I've been doing, I've learned lots more about the Yellowstone. And everything I've learned enhances it all the more.
Dale, we've got kind of a slideshow. Would you kind of walk us through it? I'd like to have our viewers get an idea what's on this free app, because whether you get on the river or just travel along it, there's stuff here that I think is going to be useful to people.
Well, I hope so. We certainly put in some time to create this thing, and we want people to use it. We want them to give us feedback on it so we can make it better and more useful. The app itself has a function, and that's basically to get people on the Yellowstone and enjoy the Yellowstone.
You know, one of the reasons we want to get people on the Yellowstone is to sustain this river, and you really need to have advocates, particularly from outdoor recreation, fisheries, and environment, to say, hey, we want to keep this Yellowstone River the way we enjoy it now.
Absolutely, yeah. I agree. And you know, the fact of the matter is Yellowstone is a corridor that comes right through Montana. It goes from, into North Dakota down by Fairview, and it leaves Montana by Gardner. And in that stretch is literally thousands of people living. It's one of the most populated river valleys in Montana. And it also provides incredible opportunity to recreate, to learn more about this river. We see the Yellowstone not as just a chunk of river, like say down around Glendive, up in the Paradise Valley or wherever. It's a corridor that runs the entire width of Montana. And it ties people from Glendive to people from Gardner. And we want them to start understanding how the Yellowstone isn't just a body of water. It is our soul.
Yeah, it's kind of our backbone, isn't it?
It is. It's an incredibly important part of our culture, our economy, our mere thought process.
Yes, that's so true.
And so we want people to get on the Yellowstone. We want them to enjoy it. We want them to learn about its vastness. And then when time comes, participate in making decisions on how we best utilize this incredible resource. And also preserve it for the future. Because this untamed river is one of the last few untamed rivers in the United States. And in continental United States, it's probably the longest untamed river.
Well, I'll tell you something, Dale. I lived in Alaska and have floated the Kuskokwim up there. And so So I found out what the length of the Kuskokwim River. That's the longest undammed river, free-flowing river in Alaska, the Kuskokwim. Well, if we take the Yellowstone River and include Yellowstone National Park, we can say that the Yellowstone River is the longest undammed river in the entire United States, and that includes Alaska.
Doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me a bit.
Well, tell us about this app.
Okay, I really will. And what's more is that when I explain what's going on with this map, I'm also encouraging you to ask questions. Now, you've been in the audience, you don't have hard to talk to me, but we have addresses that we will give you at the end of the deal. You can call, talk to us, find out more about the app, or even invite us to speak to your group, because we want to reach out and touch as many people on the Yellowstone as we possibly can. So let's get into this party and see what we got. It's a free app. It's found both on the Android and the, OSI. I'm really not very competent when it comes to
Well, we had some good people designing the guts of this thing, didn't we?
Oh, yes, we did. Yeah, we hired. You know, this came about because of the oil spill that happened in Laurel several years ago. And part of the reparations for the damages done is that they had to set aside so much money for recreation on the Yellowstone. Our Montana got together with itself and decided that we would propose creating an app that people could use that would bring them on Yellowstone and show them where they can go. So not only do we just have Yellowstone on it, we have opportunities also identified. Let's go on into it a little bit. Here's the key features of the app. It's GPS enabled, so that means you can use it as you're floating down the river, or you can use it in relation to where you're at and how far away you are from where you want to get. We have the ability for this thing to work on helping you get from Billings, Montana to the Myers Creek Bridge down by Hysham, or go to Mikishka, or go to Richland County Park, or any other parks and places that we've identified. So the GPS plays a huge role in it. We have GPS coordinates, and we also have river mile coordinates. So you can use both to determine where you're at on the river and where you're going. It also,
you know, the good thing, you know, the one thing about the Yellowstone River, we've got good telephone linkage all the way up and down the river, which really helps make this app function well.
Exactly. Not too many blind spots. You can use it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we hope you do. You can also use it for pre-planning. You can sit at the kitchen table and open up the app, read where you want to go, see what's available in that area, and make some decisions as to what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and how it's going to get done. Yes? So anyway, I'm not going to read these things to you because, quite honestly, you're capable of reading them yourself. But we just want you to understand that we have done all sorts of things to help you pre-plan an investigation of the Yellowstone. And it's not just for fishing. It's for floating, it's for rock collecting, it's for wildlife viewing, birds. It's whatever you wish it to be. And we just want you to be comfortable when you do it and feeling competent, because this is a wild river. And as such, it's got some issues that could be quite dangerous for some folk if they don't or aren't aware of it prior to coming upon it.
Dale, you were telling me one time that back in the old days, you grew up here in Billings.
Laurel.
That parents would tell their kids to stay away from the Yellowstone River.
Absolutely. I'm glad that my mom and dad were a little more lenient on that kind of stuff, because I spent a lot of time with my buddies fishing on the Yellowstone River just down by the refinery. And, you know, the city dump was right there, the refinery was right there. And so when we fished above the bridge, upstream, because the pollution was so incredible down below. Every spring, the dump would clean itself with the spring floods. And Billings and Miles City and Glendive all got benefit of that garbage floating down the river.
Thank goodness things have improved now.
Absolutely. Now you don't have to worry about cutting your feet when you're walking on the sand along the Yellowstone. Back in the day, there was trash all over the river. But like Rocky Mountain has that neat little cleanup every spring, I tell you, that has helped clean up the Yellowstone big time. Oh,
they do a
great job. And that's the kind of advocacy we really enjoy. Here's the key categories of the friendly app. What we have done is that we've come up with about 250 different sites, different spots. Some of them are state parks. There's like 5 of them, I think, that touch or are real close to the Yellowstone River, from Makishka to Pictograph to Lake Alamo. There's an island, Peroque Island, down by Miles City, and so on. There's state parks right along the river. There's also boating hazards, and then, you know, the river is a big river, and it goes through a lot of country, and it's also got a lot of issues that could perhaps create hazards for you on the water. So we have identified, I think probably around 70 or 80 hazards, from bridge abutments to, by the way, there are dams on the Yellowstone River, some 7 of them, but they're low head dams, which means they don't back up a reservoir. They're simply on the river to raise the level of the river so they can get diverted into irrigation ditches.
But they can be darn dangerous, can't
Oh
they,
yeah,
for floaters?
if you're floating down the river and you've got a 5-foot fall in front of you and you don't know it until you're on it, it's going to be a surprise and an ugly one.
One thing that's good about the app is that as you're floating along the river, it shows you where you are.
Exactly.
And you can tell how far it is to where you've got a hazard. Hey, Dale, how did you decide what was a hazard? I mean, the river changes.
Oh, it
every
does.
year.
And, you know, there's no way that we could possibly identify everything that's hazardous on the Yellowstone, because every spring, the hazards are going to change. That tree that was in the middle of the river is going to be up on the shore next to, and so you can't get to all the hazards. So we picked out the standing hazards. By standing, it means they're pretty much a permanent location. Bridge abutments, diversions, things like that are all up and down the Yellowstone. There's also a few places where, like the Bear Rapids, Buffalo Rapids down river, where the steamships couldn't get over them in low water, and they literally blow up. In fact, we've identified a couple of steamboat wrecks on the app. It's historical spots. So yeah, we look for standing hazards that present themselves throughout the year. We also are worried about the river itself creating hazards as the river flow lowers. For example, down here where the old Washington Street Bridge was, they hauled off 90% of that old bridge abutment and stuff. But there are still pieces of concrete with rebar sticking out, and in low water, you can see the rebar. Now that would not be fun to go over in a rubber raft.
Yeah.
And so we identified those, but we also want you to help us, because the river is 700 miles long, and there's no way in heck that we could identify every hazard on it. But you folks out there that are exploring will see some that I didn't have on the app, and we need to know about so we could put it on the app.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do those seasonal ones where a tree trunk is out in the middle of the river this year and not next year. And,
absolutely.
And sweepers, with, you know, or you have a tree hanging over the river, maybe gone next year. We can't have those kind of things on there, can we?
No, we can't. And you know, I'm glad that we're bringing this thing up, because we have on the map the monitoring stations at Livingston, Hysham, Glendive, I believe.
And Billings.
And Billings. Mm-hmm. And you can turn to that and see how much water flow is coming through, and understand the difference in the river when it's high water and low water, and what you need to expect during those things as it happens.
And you can just pull that up on the app, can't you?
You can just pull it up on that map and say, what's the CFS on the water on Billings? Yeah. And you can determine that if it's above 12,000, it's probably pretty floatable. Yeah. If it's over 20,000, it's probably pretty dangerous, and that sort of thing.
I think one thing that's really good about the app, too, is that it has an aerial view, so you can look at the aerial photos of the area you're passing through. Yeah. You can see that island that you're passing on the aerial photo. So it really gives you an idea of what to expect down the river.
Absolutely.
Where you are on the river.
And, you know, the river is a marvelous river, and it gives you an opportunity to explore it. Every year it changes. You can go down to some places like further on downstream past Hysham, where the river is braided out to where it's almost 3 miles wide. Yeah. And each summer, it takes different channels going through that 3-mile braid. And, you know, it's fun but frustrating to get caught in one of those and have to pull your boat back out of the water and get it into a...
not good.
a channel that has
we
water
used the
in
word
it.
explore, right, didn't
Yeah,
we?
I tell you, you get bug bit dragging a boat. Nothing more fun. We have history out there. We're working, Ralph Saunders and I are working diligently on identifying where Clark camped on the Yellowstone. We also have battlefields, we have forts, we have where John Bozeman bought the farm. We have where Clark crossed the Yellowstone up by Livingston when he first took a look at the Yellowstone, probably drank a glass of water out of it. At any rate, we have these historical sites that as you float down the river, walk down the river, do whatever you do on the river, you can tell whether or not you're close to an old stage station perhaps, or a battlefield, or a Clark archaeological point. We have public access sites. You know, that's something. There are probably 25, 30 fishing access sites on the Yellowstone, but altogether the public access, I think I identified 75 of them. City parks, county parks, just different places. Like, for example, at the Huntley Bridge, Fish, Wildlife, and Parks has got a lease agreement with the owner to let people throw their boats in right underneath the east side of the Huntley Bridge. Mm-hmm. Now, it's a tough launch, and you got to really
tough launch.
You got to know what you're doing when you get there. But that's an example of a public access.
It's legal.
It's legal. You can take your boat in there, you can park it down on the sand and the gravel, and you can float. But it's like a lot of public access. It's not the most easy to get to and use.
You know, the city and town. So you can push on the app in a spot, say Livingston, and it'll bring you up the Livingston website where you can see what trails there are in Livingston and what museums and how to get to those museums if you want to in Livingston or Glendive.
Yeah, you know, we have identified, and I think it says up here, what do I have down there? Public access sites, state parks. This is a public access site. Historical points, battlefields, the standing hazards, the cities and towns, both corporated and unincorporated. The towns show you where you can refurbish your necessities, food.
Yeah, where you get food and so on.
Yeah. So this is all information you can use to enhance your experience on the Yellowstone.
You know, Dale, at some point in time, I see really many more long-distance travelers because there's no place that I know of in the United States where you can be on a river 700 miles long and do a multi-day trip.
You know, we show these public access sites and we show the amenities in those sites. And so if it has camping available, we've listed it. If it has a boat launch, we've listed it. If it has picnic tables, it's in there. So you can go to these sites on the app and see what's available on those sites.
Sometimes a vault toilet's handy too.
Let me tell you, yeah, it is. And, you know, that's becoming a real problem, and Fish, Wildlife, and Parks is dealing with that. But the fact is, and that's leading us into this, you got to be very, very conscious of the fact that most of the Yellowstone River is privately owned up to the high water mark.
I think 84% of it's private.
Yeah, 84%.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to honor and respect private property rights.
Yeah.
We in no way encourage any trespassing or any use of the land that isn't appropriate. And if you have a question, we've identified as much as we can the government land and the private land. But if you're going to get out and walk, understand the law says you can walk anywhere you want under the high water mark, but you can't go above that high water mark without permission.
And you mentioned, Dale, the other good thing about this app is it shows where the public land is and the public island. So you really have a good idea where you can go and where you shouldn't go. And one of the things about the historic sites, so many of the historic sites are on private land.
Oh,
and as much as I would like to get out and walk and see where Clark camped as he went down the Yellowstone River, you can't do that.
No, you can't do it without permission.
Without permission.
And, you know, we're not into trying to take people's rights away or anything like that. We want you to recreate, but do it legally, lawfully, and morally right.
Yeah.
So respect private property. And if you do go on private property, talk to the people beforehand so that you have permission to do what you wish to do. We color-coded all of these sites. This is the color code that you see. Yellow, for example, is the public access sites. Red is the hazards. And so you see that we have 6 different categories of sites. Now we're taking 250 sites and we're now categorizing them into these 6 different topics. Makes it easier you can pull them up en masse. We call it the caterpillar. It looks like a mustache or a caterpillar crawling along. Or you can call up just the hazards or the museums, or you can pick state parks and historic points, and it'll just bring up those.
And that screen that we see there on the can be enlarged too, can it? I mean,
oh yeah.
So you can enlarge, really home in on a particular site.
Well, that brings to light a question I want to make sure I get. This is a work in progress, Mike. You know, there is constant need for updating it, changing it, making it more efficient, functional. So what we also want for you to do, besides enjoy the Yellowstone River, is to let us know, is there something that this app didn't have that it needs, or does it need something fixed because it doesn't work well?
Yeah.
So we want you to participate with us in making this app functional and efficient and useful.
Another thing in that category too, Dale, I mean, we've got all those historic sites like Lewis and Clark and where the Bozeman Trail crossed Yellowstone, things like that, where battlefields took place. But I think when the local historical societies dig into this, they'll see some additional sites that we ought to be putting on there.
Absolutely.
I hope they contact us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we'll have there, like I say, the app has our address on it, and I'll also give it to you. We have a pamphlet as well that we distribute.
Yeah, here.
And all you have to do is call. I don't know if you can see this, but this pamphlet opens out and gives you a little bit about what's in the app, and then it kind of shows you things that are being done. This was done by Gary Little. He's our go-to guy for artwork.
He does an amazing job.
He does an amazing job, and he's done a real fine job on this little thing. And about on the back here is we have our website and our phone numbers right here. Plus we have a few other key places, key organizations that are also interested in the Yellowstone. Yeah. By the way, a little anecdote. Do you know the Yellowstone River is bigger at the Missouri confluence? In other words, where the Yellowstone rolls into the Missouri, there's more water in the Yellowstone than there is in the Missouri. Then when the Missouri rolls into the Mississippi, there's more water in the Missouri than there is in the Mississippi. So by rights, Billings, Montana is either sitting on the Mississippi River or New Orleans is sitting on the Yellowstone.
I like that one.
I like it just fine. Okay, you got the hazards. We just looked at that. Your app is a good way to real-time exploration. Your all-in-one guide in the home screen. Yeah, that's just what it's going to start to do for you. When you open up the screen, you'll have the opportunity to say, where do you want to go? What do you want to look at? What do you want to do? Then you go to the search after you select it, and away you go. Be ready to play with this app. See for yourself what it can do. Here's a public access, all right? We can show you on the app itself. There's a picture of it. There's the name. I think it's the Roche Jean down by Miles City. In fact, it's in Miles City, I believe. At any rate, you have on the bottom of the first slide, you say, you want to learn more? You tap that, and this pops up. The Roche Jean FAS, Fishing Access Site. It's a public access, and it's at River Mile 182. What I don't have on there is River Right. That's one that I skipped on, and I'm going back to.
More hours.
But there's a determination that on the Yellowstone River, or any major river, you go to the source where it goes into the mouth of another river, like where Yellowstone goes in to the Missouri, up by Fort Buford in North Dakota. That's 0 mile. Yeah. Then as you go upstream, it's River Mile 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if you want to know what's on the right or left side of the river, you can look on this, and it'll say RR for river right and RL for river left.
Oh, that's good.
And you tell what's right, let me get this right here. You tell what's the right side by standing in the middle of the river Looking over your right shoulder, that's river right. Look over your left shoulder, that's river left. RLRR. It's on here.
That's kind of neat.
And it's supposed to be kind of
So that other screen that I see there, that's Fish, Wildlife, and Parks' screen.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So it links to their sites.
And so I linked to this thing right here. And I think it's a freebie.
It is.
And it's got all the fishing access sites for the whole state, not just for the Yellowstone River. But it has good information on boat safety and different things, different phone numbers for the regional offices. We're that close to
We
being
got we're 3 minutes.
Excuse me, folks, we're going to be heard. The hazards, historic points, museums. There are so many cool little museums. Terry has a great little museum.
These are great museums, aren't they? Oh my God.
Livingston has a couple of them. Columbus, Big Timber. I mean, you need to go see some of these museums. They're really neat local ones.
Western Heritage Center's on there, and
yep. And you meet people that have usually lived there long enough that they are their own little encyclopedia history.
State parks.
There we got them. Mm-hmm. We just identified Makishka, Pirogue Island. And I bet you haven't heard of that one very often. Pirogue Island is where Clark camped, and it's an island down on the other side of Miles City, and there's a camp spot there, and it's a beautiful little island. It doesn't have much in the form of amenities, but it's great for bird watching and wildlife.
It's amazing.
Yep.
When the water's low.
When the water's low. Yeah, if it's high, you could be underwater.
Yeah. Hey, Dale, that's another point that I might make is this app works if you're just driving along the Yellowstone River, too.
That's right.
So when you're driving along the highway or interstate,
you can read where you're at.
You can read where you're at and read the historic sites as you go along.
There you go.
Yeah. Go back to that driving instruction. See, I think this is a neat feature in that if you're at home and you're trying to figure out how to get to a particular site, it'll tell you what roads to take. And some of them are kind of hard to find.
Oh, Bondfield, good luck. Without this map, you're going to be wandering around roads you can't believe. But the map takes you right to it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. We're going to be getting done with this thing. You can get this app, folks, off the internet. You go to the store. Android, you go to the Google store. The other one is you go to the Apple store. And you download it. Like we said, it's free.
Explore the Yellowstone River.
Explore the Yellowstone River.
Yeah.
And identify free. Take it, put it on your phone, use it, let us know what you think. If you don't like it, take it off your phone.
By the way, if you've got it on your phone, we don't track you either.
No, we don't have it. All we can know that you have it is if you let us know you have it.
Yeah.
By that, give us some ideas about what it needs, what we can do with it. Explore the Yellowstone River. Look at the bottom there. You see our email, info@ourmontana.org, or call 406-259-4600.
You can pick up this app off our website, too, ourmontana.org.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have a website, and that's right there, ourmontana.org. And we sure would like you to take a look at this thing.
Dale, we're out of time. Thank you so much for your work on this thing. I think we've got a real something neat here for people.
Well, I hope so, too, because I sure put in a lot of time.
Thank you.
But I loved it. It's cool.